Snapping your chain can be a huge bummer if you don't have what you need to fix it. But if you have a long downhill ahead, you don't need a chain. Of course, this means you'll be riding around with a circular saw blade with nothing covering it. As an extra measure of safety, you can wrap whatever chain you have left around your sprocket. This might seem unnecessary, but I've heard some sprocket-related horror stories. Just measure the chain and use your chain tool to push the pin only halfway out. From there, you can separate the chain by hand and snap it back together around the sprocket without the need for a quick link. Aside from being safer, this also looks kinda cool. Trail builders use a variety of tools to compact soil, particularly when working on jumps. If you need something with a little extra surface area, you can make your own compactor out of scrap plywood. Find or cut a piece of plywood in whatever size you desire, and drill a hole on either side. Take a piece of string and feed it into the holes, tying knots in the ends so it will stay in place. Operating this device is quite simple, and although it doesn't have the weight of a purpose-built compactor, it can get the job done with enough stomping power. Given enough haste and carelessness, one can mangle the head of their Thruaxle to the point where it's stuck in the bike. Not that any of us would do that, but theoretically speaking, how would you get it out? I'll show you a few ways. First of all, grab a good hex wrench and try inserting it a little further, maybe even giving it a couple of taps. Sometimes this will give you enough grab to turn the axle. Still stuck? Move on to plan B. Find a Torx bit that's just a little bigger than the mangled hole you've created. Carefully tap it into the hole until it's hopelessly jammed in there. Now see if you can crack it loose. By the way, there's very little chance you're going to damage your Torx bit this way since it's made of steel and your Thruaxle is made of soft aluminum. One more way to extract a mangled Thruaxle is to make a Thruaxle extractor. Find a hex wrench just a little bigger than the size your Thruaxle used to be. Make sure it's a cheap hex wrench because we're going to destroy it. Use a file or grinder to taper the end so that it can be hammered into the Thruaxle. It doesn't need to be perfect, as you can see, but it certainly helps. The next part is pretty self-explanatory. Hammering something into your bike might give you a queasy feeling, so hopefully this is the last time you need to do it. I think it goes without saying that from here, you'll need to replace your Thruaxle. A similar problem is a rounded stem bolt. This can happen, but there's an easy way to get it unstuck. For starters, applying some penetrant doesn't hurt. First, remove the top cap. Next, obtain a high-quality hex wrench of the correct size. Use that hex wrench to tighten the other stem bolt as much as you safely can. This will make the stuck bolt easier to turn. So as long as it's not hopelessly rounded out, you might be able to jam a wrench in and unscrew it. If not, you can move on to the Torx trick from the previous hack, although it's possible you might mark up your tool since it's going to be steel on steel. It's still better than a lot of the other alternatives. I'm pretty good about keeping my valve stems tight, because in the past, I've had them unscrew or even break off into hand pumps. Not fun, and it turns out that very few people carry a valve core wrench. But a lot of people have action cameras, and this little mount does a great job of turning valve cores. Just wedge it on there, tighten it up, and consider double checking your valve cores in the future. If you lost that little rubber piece that holds your internally routed cable in place, it can rattle against your frame and be annoying. But never fear, electrical tape will provide an almost invisible solution. Just pull the cable out about an inch and tightly wrap it with electrical tape until you've reached the thickness of the hole. Then jam it back into the frame and enjoy a rattle-free bike. Simple and obvious, but very effective. If you're fortunate enough to have a wheel truing stand, you can add to it the ability to true rotors. All you'll need is a nut and bolt. This will work with any truing stand, and all you need to do is attach the nut to the arm. By adjusting that bolt inwards and outwards, you can get a reference point for where the rotor is bent. To reference the other side of the rotor, you can use the underside of the bolt head. This is a whole lot easier than trying to see which brake pad is rubbing with the wheel installed on your bike, and you can perform this hack with stuff you may already have lying around. At this point, we've probably done like a billion zip tie hacks, but never have we discussed cutting them without a knife or snipper. Indeed, you might end up in this situation on the trail. If so, take your multi-tool and wedge the zip tie in between two of the wrenches. Then rotate the multi-tool until the zip tie breaks off at the base. The best part about this trick is that it doesn't leave a sharp edge. You'll end up with a sort of rolled over end that won't end up slicing you open. This seems to work with most multi-tools, and it's a whole lot better than using your teeth. To perform some repairs like swapping a fork, you need to remove a brake caliper temporarily and keep track of all the bolts, washers, and other hardware that secure it in place. The easiest way to do this is with valve stem nuts. You know, valve stem nuts, those little rings that screw onto tubeless valve stems and inner tubes. These will very nicely screw onto the bolts that hold your brake caliper on. So you can use 2 of them to keep everything together while your caliper is just hanging there. Does that mean you can... No, not really. Even if this did work, I'd probably advise against it. This last tip is for trail snacks, which many of us carry in Ziploc bags, otherwise known as garbage. A great alternative is a reusable sandwich bag. These are tougher, nicer, and pretty much better in every way than disposable bags, and they help cut back on trash. But this tip is just an excuse for some trail food recipes. Mash up some avocado and mix it with lemon juice and a little salt. Throw it on some toast with sliced hard-boiled egg, and you've got yourself a hearty, nutrient-rich lunch. But that's not going to do it if you need quick energy. So the next time you go on a ride, pack a banana quesadilla. This, of course, consists of a tortilla, mashed up banana, and Reese's peanut butter cups. Pack this up in your reusable Ziploc bag, and you've officially upped your trail food game. If you found any of these hacks and tips entertaining, or maybe even useful, please give this video a like and share it with a friend. This will probably be the last hacks video for the season, since the hero dirt has returned. As always, thanks for riding with me today, and I'll see you next time.